welcome to another episode of the Sharper Edge Podcast with Betty Parker. I know it's been a few weeks since I've been on here doing my thing. Life has been lifing. As we all know, it can get in the way sometimes and take us a little bit off track, but I'm back on it. And I'm really excited because I have a wonderful guest today, Ms. Rhonda Majette, who is going to come to us and help shed hopefully a little bit of light on this whole, I want to say it's new, and it is still new, but this whole premise and idea and actuality that is now artificial intelligence. For somebody like me, who has not necessarily been fighting it tooth and nail, but I know I got to get on board. I'm a little bit slow with the adoption of this and adapting to this new type of technology. So Rhonda's going to help us to navigate this a little bit. She's immersed herself in it. She's been in the HR field for 20 plus years. She says she is an AI nerd. She just came back from a wonderful, I guess I want to say, not just a conference, Rhonda, but you came in and you were just kind of baptized by fire because you were thrown into it and gained a whole bunch of information. So help us today. Thank you for coming and being a part of this discussion, but help us today, and especially somebody like me. First question, how can somebody like me learn to adapt to this changing environment where AI has now pretty much permeated every aspect of what we do? What do I need to do to feel more comfortable in accepting this as part of how life and work is going to be?
Well, hi, Betty. Thanks a lot for having me. And first of all, you are not alone. They say misery loves company, or anxiety, or whatever you're feeling. You are there with most of America and most people who see it as a new thing. And so the first thing that I had to accept, I was, like you said, I went to a program out at the Microsoft campus, and my son belly laughed when he found out that I was the person going for my company, because it's like, Mike, you just learned how to use your iPhone and you're right. Do a week-long AI. Yes, I am. But it's been here, you know. Right. It's. I think about this movie back in like 2011, maybe 2010. It was called AI, and little boy Haley Joel Osment starred as a robot that some man decided that he would replace his son with, and brought it home to the wife, you know. And then there was all this brouhaha about, we're going to be replacing our children. Well, you know, we're 24 years in. I don't know of anybody. Maybe somebody's thought about it. I surely have thought about replacing my child with a robot that does everything I tell him to do. But it hadn't happened. But AI has slowly crept into our existence. We have cars that tell us when we're about to back into something, right? We have, Facebook that suggests, you might want to be friends with Betty. I don't know Betty. Betty's somewhere in Arkansas. I'm in South Carolina. But because Betty and I clicked like on the same recipe, Betty should be my friend, you know. So I guess if I was going to say, if there was anything that would waylay or calm the fear, it's that we're kind of already there with using it, whether we recognize it as AI or not, right? So understanding what it is, which is truly artificial intelligence, right? It's just us in machine version. It's human intelligence, it's human knowledge, it's human communication, human behavior and actions, just in machine form. So there's nothing there that didn't begin with the human experience. So it didn't fall from the sky, right, or pop up from the ground like in an alien movie or something. Yeah.
Like Do you think a lot of what people believe about AI is because it's been driven by the movie industry? Because of course it brings all of the, the scary, spooky stuff, like it's gonna get out of control. And I have read, and I gotta say, Rhonda, I have read some interesting stories about how this, it's almost like developing a mind of its own, right? And so we've seen it exceed, some of the things that the programmers are saying it's supposed to be able to do. It's almost making its own decisions. I think it just, there was a cyber attack on another platform or something called something hugs. I forgot what it is, whatever. But this thing went beyond what the programmers were expecting it to do. So of course, there's all of this, scary stuff that this thing's going to take off one day and totally consume humankind and override us, and we're going to be subject to the out of control and enraged machines, right?
Machines, right?
iRobot, yeah.
Probably no more so than out of control people. People who make really bad decisions.
Now we got to deal with the bad decisions of the machines too.
Yeah. But that's a very valid concern in some areas. Like, think about the Waymos, those cars that just completely devoid of a human in them will pick you up and take you somewhere. I'm not there yet. When we were in Phoenix a few months ago, I saw them all over the place. I saw them in Orlando. So I have to admit, I'm not even there with sitting in a car and there's no driver. I think that the government has to get a lot more vigilant with controls. It's gone unchecked in some areas in terms of how it's marketed, what it's allowed to do, things like legal briefs, things like medical, predictions. It's being used now to review all your data way faster than your doctor could ever do it. So the speed of light with getting a diagnosis is there. But just on that medical analogy in itself, if it's going out there, it's out there. So the speed of light at which it tells you may have cancer, you may have a genetic disorder, who else can get to it? Because it's out there.
Yeah. Right.
And so those types of things have to have more controls. They're working on it. I saw on the news the other day where they're trying to make each of these major, like Microsoft and other companies that are producing AI, like OpenAI, that markets a lot of things, like ChatGPT is a product of theirs. They've got to have, they need to be able to be regulated the way we regulate anything else. And they're working on it to where if something goes completely rogue, there's like a kill button or there's a something, we've got to have a plan. We've got to have a better plan for it because it has grown in terms of use a lot faster than I think a lot of us thought it would. I know people who are close to retirement age, late 50s, early 60s. Oh, I thought I'd be out of the workplace by the time it came up. Well, oops, now it's here. Now it's a part of your job. The company has paid these big fees to put in Copilot. So the expectation is that you will use it to communicate faster, to communicate clearer. Claude, so that you can get projects down the conveyor belt a lot quicker than you ever could. And if you're sitting back and just saying, nope, I'm going to do, this is the way we've always done things. People ask, is it coming from my job? Is it going to replace me? Yeah, if you don't embrace it, if you don't try to use it at some level, then what you used to do, or what you've done the same old way over and over again. And if you raise up your hand and say, I'm not open to change, or I'm not open to learning it, it might not take your job today, but at some point in time, you're going to be faced with either adoption or moving to another position where it's not, going to be used.
Yeah.
And I'll say, there are a lot of jobs out there that it will be years before it comes for them. And these are jobs that require judgment, jobs where you really have to have human interaction. I don't see them replacing all the nurses in the world with robots, right? They may have some in the school system, but most of the things that teachers do, again, there are some professions that there's going to be a longer trajectory. But if you are just rubber stamping things, or if you're just, doing rote things over and over and over again, you should be concerned about whether or not they're going to try to replace your jobs with AI. Now, my guess is that some companies are jumping on this bandwagon and they're going to have to go back and rehire some people because they're going to
Mm,
find out that, you have to have humans in the loop, which is an
mhm,
AI term, right? It can't learn on its own. It can't
mhm,
grow on its own. It can only grow upon what you put in it. And
mhm.
so at some point, it might run out or it might hallucinate. It might create a scenario when it doesn't know the answer, and that scenario could be wrong.
Mhm.
And so someone's got to check it.
Yeah. It's there's just so many aspects of this, to your point about people being afraid of losing their job. So to the kind of very trite work that people do, we see those being vulnerable already, like Amazon, I think, and UPS and those types of companies. We've seen big layoffs. I saw in the news yesterday that there was going to be 2,600 people laid off from Visa. So we see some of it happening already, and I guess people's concerns are legit, that they, is it coming from me? Also, to your point, if anybody's ever seen the series The Pit, we saw that one of the, you know, character doctors, I don't know how real this is happening in medicine right now, but she was introducing some type of app or some AI apparatus that would help them to do their dictation faster, because you have to put everything in a patient's charts. All the charts are electronic, but still a physician has to say what all of the course of action was for that patient. And it was making errors though. So as much as it was a convenient thing, because we're recognizing that it's going to be pretty convenient for people to use, it's just that it seems like it's still in these early stages, and that, like you say, without any real human intervention, it can produce a lot of mistakes for people. So I anticipate that as it continues to get used, it's going to get sharper, it's going to get better, it's going to get smarter, it's going to be more precise in the
Hmm.
information that it shares. And
Hmm.
that's what I think bothers people. But also, to your point, which was a good example in that series, was like a nurse needed, when a patient came in, she could smell, or whoever could smell, that this person had a sweet odor on their breath, which is usually an indication in people with high with diabetes, their high glucose levels. AI can't do that. You definitely need a human being in there to look at a person and to smell and to see and to touch and all of those things. So I get what you're saying. Then for those folks, it'll be a long ways down the road, if ever, that
Hmm.
they are replaced by some kind of AI.
Now,
That
those
makes sense.
folks can enhance their opportunity to remain in their jobs and to grow by using AI.
By using it.
So I would say, if no matter what job you're in, like I'm in employee relations, so my job is to find out, the root cause of any complaint or concern anywhere in a company, and resolve it based on what the law says, what the company's culture says, what the employee needs, and find some kind of happy medium so everybody can get back to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I use AI for my reporting. I use it for my communications. I use it to generate interview questions if I have to talk to a number of people to make sure that I'm asking the right questions. I ask it to even suggest some questions along the way. If I can't for the life of me think of everything I should ask about this situation, I put in the complaint. It tells me what questions to ask everybody. But at the end of the day, the recommendation on what people need to do based on all that information is a human thing, and that human
Yeah.
is me. But I can get it done a lot faster than I may have done, 5 or 6 years ago
Mm-hmm.
because I have AI. So I would say to folks, if find a way to use it to make yourself more valuable. And there's tons of ways to get information about it depending on what your field is. If you are in medicine or if you're in marketing or what have you, there's a great program called Coursera,
Mm-hmm.
Coursera, I think it is Coursera,
No,
C
it's
O U
Castera.
R
You're
S E
right.
R A,
Mm-hmm.
Coursera. And you can take AI courses in
Mm-hmm.
small learning bites,
Mm-hmm.
which is how I like to learn. I'm not one that wants to sit in a class for 5 hours. That just
Right.
doesn't always work for me. But learning bites to learn about how it works and at least you'll be conversing about it, right? When they come to you and talk to you about, okay, we
Absolutely.
want to start using AI. You're like, yeah, I think we should use some type of generative form of blah 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 blah.
Hmm.
That sets you apart right there from everybody else who's sitting back scared,
Hmm.
relying more on fear than they do the facts.
Yeah. I think when we find out all of the bells and whistles and how advantageous it is for us to use it, people will be less afraid. It's just the learning something new. And it seems
Mhm.
I'm even open to learning new things, but AI, everything that it can do, because it seems exhausted. I mean, it's like there's no end to the very many things that
Mhm.
AI can produce. And we're in many ways already using it, whether we realize it or not.
Mhm.
So I get overwhelmed thinking about how many things. If I could be taught just the parts that are pertinent to what I need to do, then cool. I mean, I think I can get on board with it. People are using Chat GPT a lot. What did they say anything in Microsoft about why the uptake has become so, so big now? I mean, like you said, it's been around for a long time. We didn't necessarily talk about AI the way we're talking about it today, but it seems like over the past, 3 or 4 recent years, all of a sudden there's just been this convergence of everybody, and especially older people. I
Mhm.
have so many people, even my sister who's older than I am, she's in her 70s. She uses Chat GPT for all kinds of stuff. She's
Oh
asking
yeah.
questions, even if she's teaching her Sunday school class, she's going out, she's asking questions, getting all these answers. People are using it for, life decisions and direction in terms of
Oh
where they
yeah.
need to go in their careers and all of that. So is it something that's just
So
all
I
of a
guess
sudden
your
people
question is why
discovered?
now and not like
Yeah. What's
when the
happening?
a couple of things, a couple of good things and a couple of not so good things, right? So we have 5, 6 generations working and at the same people not retiring. So they
Hmm.
need something, but they're not getting younger,
Hmm.
and so, in your 50s and 60s, cognitively you slow down. This is a great balancer out. This is a great way to stay relevant, to stay
Yeah.
quick, to stay sharp, and look like you're younger on paper anyway in your communication skills. Like, oh, I
Right.
got it, and I can respond as quick as this 30-year-old here. So I don't
Hmm.
need to retire, right?
Hmm.
So it's a great shoring up of skill sets. The demand for information, the demand for things to turn around just gets
Um,
quicker and quicker.
that's
And
true.
then there's that, that lovely little thing called corporate greed, right?
Ah,
So there's, how can we do things faster, swifter with less people? That's been a conversation pretty much ever since I've been in HR.
yeah.
And I've been in those rooms where they're trying to figure it out. And
Hmm.
someone somewhere like a Microsoft or um, whoever,
Hmm.
not just trying to blame them, but they come to mind, or Open AI said, hey, AI, we can help you with that. We can help you
Hmm.
do more, get more cars down the assembly belt,
Assembly line. Hmm.
get more law cases filed, get more, makeup produced, whatever,
Yeah.
with less people. Let us show you how. So AI is the new magic, right? And it's the new thing that people can go, oh, I don't need. Whereas I used to need 1,000 people, I can make the same amount of money. And it's harder to make money now. It really
Hmm.
is.
Hmm.
Most companies are dealing with regulations that they didn't have to deal with in the 50s and 60s and 70s. And, things are becoming more and more regulated as we go on. And so having these tools in place to help people make decisions and to enhance their lives, it had to trickle over into corporate America at some point in time. And I love you're saying about, your sister, I, and one of those people that tries to count my carbs and high protein and all that kind of stuff. So I started like 4 months ago with Chat GPT counting my carbs. And I wanted to bake a cake this weekend. And I said, so give me a recipe for a sour cream pineapple pound cake. And it came back with a recipe, but it remembered that it was counting my carbs. And it's like,
Oh,
but you may only want to have a 16th of the cake. And by the way, would you like me to tell you how much No, I really don't. And
oh,
it's
all right.
okay.
Right. I don't
I
need
don't want
you.
you to. It was like the friend that I needed, but I don't
Yeah.
want,
Right.
that honesty.
Uh-huh.
The other thing is that people are seeking since COVID,
I've
right?
seen that.
We
Mm-hmm.
had the isolation with COVID, and
Mm-hmm.
people could. This was a companion. It was
Yep.
something else to connect them electronically, and it knows who you are. They created the AI companion thing. There
Mm-hmm.
are people whose whole lives are connected to
I know.
this,
Yeah.
which I'm not sure I'm there. I'm pretty sure I'm not there yet. But people who aren't socially inept, like there was a whole
Mm-hmm.
generation that didn't leave home,
Mm-hmm.
during COVID. And now they don't have to because AI can create them some people, some friends, and they can play games and they can chit chat and they don't have to have the rejection of dealing with real people.
Right. Yeah.
So the social context and the corporate, money saving issues, all of that plays into why AI is such a much a bigger deal now than it might have been
Mm-hmm.
5 or 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Well, as much as we're talking about all of the advantages of, using this tool, there are a lot of controversies also associated with it. So even to produce, everything that people are getting accustomed to using, these data centers are needed. And so there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of protests, there is a lot of concern amongst communities when these people want to bring in these big data centers, to house everything that's necessary to continue to produce these AI tools. Did they cover anything along that line? What's their take on? And of course, they're ones who want to see these data centers in these centers. So of course, they're going to speak on the positive aspects of it. But are they concerned about the everyday person in the community who's saying, "I don't want my water bill to go up higher. I don't want my electric bill to go higher. I don't want all of this stuff. It affects, because it soaks up so much water, and there's so many things where people feel like there's some contamination that might come and blah blah blah, the whole thing, right? We're destroying the lands and all of this stuff where we live, and they're concerned about
It,
what the cost of it for their communities. I mean, what would you
it's
hear from that?
industry. We didn't. I'll be honest with you. We didn't talk a lot about that, but I am aware of the um, ecological concerns
Hmm.
when it comes to those things, and people have to be. And that's the other thing is take the fear away and understand the facts. And if you feel that it's going to be harmful to your community, then you need to get involved just like you would with anything else in
Yeah.
your community. You
Hmm.
need to get with your legislators, you need to get to vote with for people who care about your water and your water bill. Some
Hmm.
politicians do, some politicians don't.
Hmm.
I tell people all the time, it's not so much AI, it's what certain people are doing with it and what they're willing to sacrifice to advance it.
Hmm.
And if you feel like there are people you know, they can't build these things without there being an open regulatory process, right? They
Hmm.
can't just come in and stick it in there. They've gone through your state house, they've gone through your leaders in your community, they've gone through your chambers of commerce. So if you're not engaged in all of those things, you go and wake up one day and it's in your backyard.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I would say don't wait. If you think it's possibly coming your way and you really want to, get ahead of it or make them put in, um, safeguards and guardrails to contaminating the environment in general, just like with any other industry. Like Scout Motors is coming in. They're making cars for crying out loud. How
Hmm.
much chemical are you going to use to make a car?
Hmm.
So, but there are a lot of safety things that they had to put in place to get things approved. We've got to get involved. We can't just sit back and complain about it. We've got to be engaged citizens so that we know what's happening in our world, because it's coming, and they're going to find places where, ironically, they do find these nondescript places where people don't end up, where people aren't engaged. I'm just going to put that
Yeah.
out there. Somehow they find, like in my hometown, less than 400 people. They don't
Hmm.
put something up there
Oh
because
yeah,
all they have to do
absolutely.
is promise jobs, and we're
Hmm.
like, come on, come on, come on, come on.
Hmm. Absolutely.
But beware of that gift horse. Whenever somebody's leading with jobs, you want to make sure they're not jobs that are going to kill you.
Absolutely right. So yeah, they certainly do their demographic work when they're scouting out these spots, and it's there's a lot of support for AI because of the efficiencies that come with it. But like any new thing, and this is still very new in a lot of ways, even though it's been around for a while, but any new thing, there is a lot of the unknown. And so people
Mhm.
are afraid of the unknown.
Mhm.
What would you recommend in terms of, from your HR experience and background? What is an advantage of using AI in getting hired, or even now you already said about being staying relevant on your job, so learning how to do these things, right?
Mhm.
And which I think, by the way, we should always be doing, regardless of AI. If you want to continue to work, as the generations start changing and newer ones come in order to stay relevant, you got to make sure you're staying on top of anything new that is coming, I would think, right? You can't
That's
just
true.
sit here and be in a 1950s mindset when we're in 2026, right? So tell me
That
about AI.
that's why I was like, yeah, I'll go to the Shrimp conference. I'll go to Microsoft.
Yes,
I'll and I knew, like I said, I had my son in my ear, Mom, you can barely use your iPhone,
but I'm going to learn about
but
this
I'm
AI.
going. I'm going to go, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to be. I have to say though, they had these pens that I haven't seen come out yet. It was like your iPhone, but it was a pen, and it was so cool. But I think maybe the cost of it, or
Oh,
people
wow.
just didn't buy into using the pen as
Uh,
opposed to their phones. But we saw some gadgets out there that were really cool. But I would say, in terms of job seeking and getting hired, is to take that job description and plug it into like a chat GPT or a
mhm,
Copilot, and have it compared with your resume,
mhm,
and you get a good idea of what they're asking for, and if you got it right. So
mhm.
then that limits the number of jobs that, or you can put your resume in and it can create the types of jobs that you might
Yeah,
qualify for.
yeah.
So it say, first of all, save yourself some time for applying for stuff that you have no chance at, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And then if you get an interview, you can actually have your co-pilot mentor you. Put, again, you've got that resume in there, you've got that job description in there. You can put in stuff about the company, tell them what company it is,
Mhm.
what their background is, because you're going to do your due diligence anyway. You're going to read up on that company, put in all that you could put in, and ask it to help you practice interviewing. And they
Very
can ask
nice.
you questions and all that kind of stuff, so that you
Mhm,
go in, sitting up a little taller, feeling more prepared for that.
mhm, mhm.
You can have it. I still believe, and I still interview on occasion, and I'm still always pleasantly surprised when somebody sends me a thank you note. It's just that people don't do it anymore, but the
Right.
few people that do, I promise you, they get like woohoo up here with
Mhm,
me. Even
mhm.
if I might not have liked them, I'm like, oh, but they were so nice,
But that and that was such a thoughtful gesture
Yeah,
after the
in my
interview, right? It makes them
recruiting
stand
career,
out.
I have literally held that person aside, and when something else came along that they might be better for,
See?
called them back. And so I will say there is a lot of value in being memorable, even if you're not selected.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
it'll help you to do that. Um, and then of course, day one or whatever, have it, you can put in, who your boss is or where you're going, and it can just help you navigate after that. So
Yeah,
everything from your first resume, it can be your coach. It really can.
yeah.
And the more you feel prepared for those interviews, the better chance you'll have of being called back or getting a job. It can help you navigate your salary. I'm
Mm,
not a big proponent of like salary.com or those places like that.
mhm.
But if you put in your years of experience and what the job is requiring, Copilot can help you to have that testy conversation about salary that's always to me a little wonky.
Uh-huh.
Unless somebody is just, you have people who want $1 million to paint lines on the sidewalk.
Right.
That's not going to happen. And I love those conversations because they're just so amusing. But
It's a joke to
Let
you, right? It's like, okay, yeah, I'm really gonna give you
that
that
is
much money. Yeah.
let me take that back to them. Let me see what they have to say.
Mhm. Mm.
But in all seriousness, you can practice having that conversation. Like if they offer you
Very
a little bit
nice.
lower,
Mhm.
how to communicate your value. Like I initiated this, or I saved my company $15 million with my brilliant idea,
Mhm.
and I plan to do the same thing at your company. So I would like you to consider, maybe $10,000 more or 15% more because of my level of experience, that sort of thing, rather than, just going in cold and saying, "Can you do better than that?" Which I've
Mhm.
heard before.
Oh, wow.
You got to put some data behind it. You got to put some
Right.
meat behind your ask.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just a blank ask, and we're going to say no.
Mhm. Mhm. So, learning what you've learned, because going into, knowing a little bit more about AI versus, what you knew going into it, do you feel any differently than when you first started learning about AI? You were
Oh yeah.
exposed to a whole lot more. Do you feel more comfortable with it,
Yeah,
or
I
okay.
feel like I'm certainly not afraid of it, right? This is like the third, maybe fourth time that I've presented on it. I presented to the South Carolina Bankers Association twice, and to the chamber just a couple of weeks ago
Okay.
to one of their committees. And the more I present, the more I learn because I got to get prepared for those
That's right.
conversations. And so the thing that I carry with me, that's probably my strongest thing that makes me supportive of it, is that there's nothing in it that's not that hasn't come from the human experience, right? So any knowledge that I give my chat GPT, like how much protein I need a day according to the people at the gym and that kind of stuff, if
Mhm.
it's coming back and telling me not eat cake, that's my fault. That's on me because I told it I wanted to have a low carb, high
Right,
protein diet.
right.
It didn't just create that out of the blue. If for some reason it comes up with something that I can't recall ever putting in there, one or two things have happened. I'm senile, or it's time to shut it down. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
so that I don't really feel is in the near future. My senility, God willing, nor that it's gonna go rogue like that in my phone.
Mhm.
And I know that um, science fiction would have us think that, but it also
Mhm.
sometimes has us think, that we're going to have all kinds of things happen, in the world. Great floods, Godzilla is going to come, and swoop up the city. So
Right.
I would say, be if you are one that's going to be entertained by those things, be entertained by it, but don't let it make you fearful of jumping on using products that can really enhance or save your lives. I mean,
Mhm.
your watch, it's got a lot of AI in it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it tells you, your heartbeat. It tells you when you're excited,
Mhm.
blood pressure, things like that. Um, Embrace the things first of all. If you're going to start small, start with your bundt cake recipe and see, what if I added a little more vanilla? What if I put nuts on it?
Mhm.
Get that comfort zone with, like you would with any stranger, because it's a stranger, right?
Mhm.
It's a
Mhm.
stranger you can't see, but it's truly a stranger that's at your job, that's in your car, that's at the car wash, it's in the
Yeah.
grocery store. Every ad comes at you knowing what you bought before. That's the machine learning part of AI.
Mhm. Mhm.
You're not going to get anything from a store or a retailer now that they haven't already used AI to know what to show you on your feed, right?
Mhm.
So understand that there are areas that is already enhancing your life. Play with it to see how it can enhance your life with you in control of it.
Mhm.
And by then, you're good to go with what you need to do
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
job.
I wonder how much of it, as we've been having this conversation, is going to show up on my phone when I go on Facebook or Instagram, right? It's going to be all in my, because the minute you
It's
say
going to
something, these
invite you to the next
devices are
share
listening,
conference. It's going
and
to invite you
you know,
to to go out to California and hang out with those people at Microsoft who were hilariously nice people. I have to say
oh,
they
very
were really
good.
good. But
Very.
yeah, it's gonna yeah, me too, Betty, for sure. I don't know what it's gonna show up because you just feel like it's either in your head or it's in you somewhere listening.
It is.
But
These devices are always listening. I was reading a story though. I mean, there have been instances. I've seen several news stories of these some type of program with AI that has taken on a little bit of a life of its own. One of the more recent stories I saw, and this it was probably a few months ago. This was in Time magazine. Um, Not so much that the device is taken or the platform is taken off, but the carelessness and the callousness of some of the people who want to use this. And I'm talking about the federal government and more specifically the Department of Defense. I don't call it the Department of War. I hope we're a country of peace and we're not out looking for war, right? But nonetheless, so there's this big fight because I think OpenAI, or what was the other one? It starts with an A. Anthropic, I think,
mhm.
was the one that had the contract, I think, with the DoD first. And they wanted to put the brakes on allowing too much of their program to be used in the Department of Defense. They were saying there needs to be human intervention when you're talking about war here. And one of the things they were talking about is like actually using like these robots to go out and fight. Now, one of the things, and it's being used apparently already in Ukraine. One of the advantages they see is the protection of the loss of life, right? If you can send robots out to do the fighting, we preserve human life that way. However, if we feel like we're preserving human life, we'll have these never ending wars, right? There's got to be something that's an impetus to say we should not be fighting anyway. The human toll can force people to say it's time to talk about peace or at least a ceasefire. But if you don't have that kind of hanging out there, there's really no reason to end it. So they were just saying, we got to put some safeguards here. We got to put some brakes on these things. And because they were pushing back on the government and saying we don't want it to be used, just wide open, no guardrails, no holes barred. They actually lost that contract. The government says, okay, if you don't give it to us, we'll go to the next people who, as you mentioned, that corporate greed, who are just hungry enough to say, okay, if this is what y'all want, we'll give you whatever you want. And they're not thinking about the cost of this, way down the road a piece. So that's the thing that's a little frustrating to me because as much as this is all generated by humans, we still need humans to make the wise decisions about how best to use it. I think these are wonderful tools to use, but if it's not used in the right way and it's all used for everybody's own benefit, and it's impacting the people around us, it gives me pause, on how we can more
And
effectively.
I will admit, in the wrong hands, just anything can
Hmm.
go crazy and be detrimental.
This is true.
Um, and AI is no different.
Right.
It's just well, actually, I take that back. It is very different because of the far-reaching impact it will have in a very short amount of time. If something crazy happens, or if they, like you said, they start replacing um, soldiers
Mm.
or combat at arms people with robots, and like there's a bowling alley restaurant on Main Street that's using an AI.
Yeah, the little waiter that
Yeah,
comes
the
to your
little
table
waiter,
and brings your
right? Yeah,
food. Yeah.
I love it.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
I don't tip it, but I like it. They
Right.
didn't sit there and wait for a tip either. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, the more we see that, the more those sci-fi movies are going to become realer, and the more people are going to think. So I say that again, we have to have good decision makers
Hmm.
in place, and so it's more important now. If we didn't think about it before COVID, or we didn't think about it in the last few years, we have to ask those questions of the leaders and the people that we put in office, in corporate and in political offices,
Hmm.
because if they don't have good sense about this, then some of the things that we are afraid of will come to pass. And
Absolutely.
and and me, of all people, or anybody, there's no denying it. There's
Yeah.
no denying it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've certainly raised some really interesting, um, ideas and uses. I mean, because you have taken the edge off of it for me when you think about the multiple uses and advantages for just the regular, ordinary person who might be doing something like baking a cake, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so it runs the gamut. And I'm just hoping, and I know this conversation will continue,
Hmm.
in all aspects of life, on the job, in your personal lives too. So we're just going to invite the folks who are listening and watching today, if you have any questions or thoughts about what you just heard about artificial intelligence, please by all means join the conversation. Have a quick one with us. Let us know what you think. Let us know what your experiences have been, what your concerns are, and we'd like to continue to have this conversation. And Rhonda, I hope I can invite you to come back at another
Okay.
time because of your HR experience. There's a whole host of things we can talk about.
We sure
Just
can.
like interviewing questions and things along that line, I think would be very helpful to
Okay.
people. So I
Okay.
appreciate you being here. I hope you have
All right.
a wonderful week, and
Thank you.
just come back and see us.
Okay. Sure thing.
All right. Thanks for being here.